Hello, everyone. Gary Laubach, Mike Joseph. We are indeed behind the mic. An away game this week as the Lafayette Leopards will take on the Colgate Raiders. That's a 1 o'clock start. You can obviously watch it on ESPN+. Let's talk a little bit about the Raiders before we take a look at the Leopards. Stan DeCoste has moved in, now in his second season. He's bringing this team along, Mike. They've already now won a couple in a row, and they look like they're capable of competing in the Patriot League. I'm not sure they're a Holy Cross. I'm not sure they're a Fordham, but they're maybe right there at the next spot.
Yeah, I think so. They're right at that next tier, that next level, and I think a lot of that goes to their quarterback, Michael Brescia, and obviously their coach. They're well coached. They do everything pretty well. They just don't excel in really anything, especially throwing the football. They need to do a better job at that. But, you know, playing Colgate is one thing, but playing Colgate at Colgate is another thing. And obviously we don't have a great record against them overall and certainly up there. But they are a team that's on the rise. If you look at it, like you mentioned, they've won 2 in a row. Lafayette has now lost 2 in a row.
Mike, as we look at the ball club, you've already mentioned Mike Brescia. He is the guy as he leads the team in passing. He leads the team in rushing, and he's probably a better rusher than passer.
Yeah, and single-handedly in the Army game, which, you know, I stood out, I watched that entire game. He kept them in the ball game in the first half with his running ability and his throwing ability. He seems to run the zone read better than anybody. He is the best running quarterback in the league, and I know we've seen Saluka and we've seen others, but nobody does it better than him, and obviously nobody does it better than Colgate, and nobody schemes it better than Colgate. The zone read is one thing we're going to talk about on Inside the Huddle. Lafayette is going to have to stop the quarterback from running, and last year you saw over 120, 130 yards rushing last year, really put the game away for Colgate. So Lafayette's going to have an answer. They're going to have to come with enthusiasm and excitement to play football. There's 3 games left. That's it. There's a lot different between going 1-5 and going 4-2.
No question about it. One final point about Brescia. Are you as shocked as I am that he runs this offense as well as he does being just a sophomore?
No, because we've seen freshmen before. You know, the Sullivan kid played there. We've seen a lot of freshmen run this program very well back to the days where I coached, and Vega was the quarterback, not a big kid. But they recruit for that position. They recruit for what they do offensively, and they target recruit. They find a strong inside runner like they have in Hurlman. They find a quarterback that isn't a great thrower but can run their scheme and throw the ball to open receivers. And when you run the zone read and the RPO schemes that they do, a lot of times you're throwing to an open receiver. So it's not a drop back read scheme. It's, hey, we're going here. We're cutting the field in half on sprint out. We're going to throw the ball to this guy. If it's not there, Michael, use your legs, and he does it so well.
He certainly does, and in fact, we see it every week now, even in the NFL. It has become the offense. The quarterback is a different position than it was years ago. And, I mean, they have running backs, Max Hurlman and Jaden Henry. Both can run the ball well. Both are averaging about 5 yards per carry. Oakley, Hutchison, Hurlman are all good receivers, and their defense led by the linebacker Tyler Flick. It's a well-rounded football team. You get a sense that this ball game, if you were going to bet or have odds on it, it would be even.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much even. The only edge I would give the Colgate is that they're at home. And like I mentioned, they're at home. You look at Garrett Oakley, the wide receiver, what he did last year to us late in the game, the catch he made, that contested catch against Sekou White down the field, changed the whole game. That was it. That was the chance they needed to get the ball in the red zone. That was the chance for them to put points on the board. So they can throw the football. If you look at any weaknesses on their team, you got to look at maybe their defensive line. They only have 4 sacks. The entire year, they've only gotten after the quarterback so many times. So with the pressure that they're going to put on us, you would think our offensive line should do a better job. They have to do a better job because that area for Lafayette right now is kind of holding them back.
All right, that leads us to Lafayette. I don't know how much time we want to spend on last week, but last week was not good.
No, not at all. It was really disappointing. And you and I talked about it in the booth. Obviously, you lose the Holy Cross game. You're not supposed to win that game, but you have a bad feeling in your stomach. You want to come back out. I thought they would have come out with more energy. I don't think they matched the intensity early in the game against Georgetown, which is disappointing. So I think Coach Troxell's got to reinvigorize not only his staff, but obviously those kids, get them to understand that there are only 3 games left, and it's a chance for them to prove something going into the offseason. So I was disappointed. I was a little disappointed in the way the defense played. I was disappointed in the way they rallied to the football and tackled. And then offensively, you know, to struggle the way we did early, down 17-0 again, was a disappointment. But you got to put it in your rearview mirror. You got to move ahead. Colgate tough up in Hamilton.
Mike warned us, if you recall, don't let them get out in front early, and Georgetown did get out in front early by a 17-0 score. Malik Ham, we got to talk about some positives here. He gets another sack. He's now fourth place all time in the Patriot League, number one at Lafayette. Malik Ham is about as steady a football player as you'll find.
Yeah, he's terrific against the run. You saw him drop into coverage a little bit. He can run. He's showing that he can play on his feet for maybe the next level. That is a preview for the NFL where he's probably going to have to play on his feet or at least prove that he can do that. But he absolutely proved that he can rush the passer. He does it better than anybody in the league. And then you back him up with Marco Olivas. And a guy like Preston Forney, who's really going unsung, playing extremely well. You're getting pretty good play out of Gilbert and obviously Sekou White. The corners have kind of faded off a little bit. I'm expecting a little bit more from the corners, and they're going to have to do that this week. You got Ian Grayson back last week. So this is a defense that just needs to take it on themselves to say, listen, Colgate, you only scored 13 points against Bucknell. You know, Bucknell stopped you guys. We are not going to allow you in the end zone, and if you do, it's going to be field goals, not touchdowns.
The one question you don't ever want to have during the week, I'll ask you, put you in the locker room, who's going to be the quarterback? You always want to know your QB. Right now, it's certainly not a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, it's kind of a toss-up right now. I mean, Ashawn Davis just showed me last week that he wasn't comfortable, didn't look comfortable with the game plan. It was different. It was a lot of pre-snap reads. He looked in the wrong direction. He looked to a single receiver side when there was a too high safety and there was double coverage. He looked, obviously to wanting pump fake, and then obviously he doesn't have the same ability as Rent Monty has, say, to get vertical up the pocket and do that stuff. He didn't check the ball down a lot, which was kind of odd. And they didn't really use Jaden Sutton. So to go back to the quarterbacks again, I think it's a toss-up. I think Ashawn gets the nod, but Rent's going to be ready.
Mike pumps me up every week to get ready for a football game, makes me look forward to it. What's the message, your message, in this locker room?
Go play football. So you got 3 games left. And I talked to Julius Young last week about it. I said, listen, before you know it, you're going to have a job and you're going to have a family and it's over. Play football. You got a couple games left. Some guys will be coming back next year, but you got a way to send a message to Colgate that you haven't beaten a lot, to Fordham, which, again, if they can play defense, because Fordham's going to be going up against the best defense in the league in Lafayette. They can hold them down, say, under 50 points like they score every week. And then, obviously, you're going into Lehigh. You want to be positive going into the Lehigh game. So let's just put a win on the board. Go out and let it all hang out. You have nothing to lose, okay? Nothing at all to lose. Just go play football and do what you've been doing since you're 6 years old.
Well, for you guys, just go watch football. 1 o'clock, ESPN Plus. You are certainly invited. Mike and I won't be back to make the call until the Lehigh football game. But this has been Behind the Mic. That's Mike. We'll see you next week.